Well, those tougher restrictions limited how many people businesses could serve and only allowed people in the same households to gather. And now the potential of loosening some of those restrictions comes as the city responds to two high-profile gatherings. Danny Monteverdi has that story.
City Hall says COVID-19 numbers are going in the right direction, down, but they say we're not out of the woods just yet. New Orleans is averaging about 130 new COVID cases every day. That's below the roughly 200 cases a day this city had seen, but still above the 50 a day that city leaders are more comfortable with. Still, they say it's a sign of progress.
We do anticipate some easement of the restrictions, and that is due to the hard work that people have done. We are grateful that everyone listened to the guidelines, that they abided by them. That is the way that we stay safe.
The potential loosening of restrictions comes as the owners of Monkey Hill Bar on Magazine Street had to answer for this photo circulating on social media. It shows a large, maskless crowd Saturday night. That led to a warning from City Hall. The bar's owners told Eyewitness News an event plan there followed the city's modified Phase 1 guidelines, but they say it quickly grew out of control.
There's no excuse for that at this point. We're 10 months into the pandemic, and everybody knows what the rules are, everybody knows what's dangerous, and everybody knows what the consequences are.
Meanwhile, the controversial crew of Knicks hosted what some called a ball at a casino along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The response drew what the crew's attorney described as unfair pushback from the city. Attorney Doug Sinceri describes the event as small and says it followed COVID guidelines where it happened. He spoke about it Tuesday on WWL Radio.
Basically, they had a gathering of 42 people at the Imperial Palace in Biloxi. Interestingly, only, I think, 2 confirmed people who attended the gathering is from Orleans Parish.
They went to another state, so that's pretty well outside of our jurisdiction. That said, everybody's very clear on what they did, and everybody's clear that it was dangerous, that it creates a danger to New Orleans public health, and that's something that is going to be part of our considerations in any conversation around who's parading next year.
Even as the COVID numbers begin to trend downward, city officials say they know people will come to New Orleans in the coming weeks for Mardi Gras. That even as parades are canceled this year. They say they hope the crowds will do one thing, follow the guidelines so we can avoid another surge. Danny Monteverdi, Eyewitness News.
And we are still waiting on a time for tomorrow's announcement. When that happens, we will stream it live online and on the WWL TV app.